Hey guys, today I'm going to be covering a Genshin video. It's pretty much going to be like my hypothesis on a lot of different categories, kind of like rapid firing them. I'm new to Genshin, so perhaps this is stuff that everybody's aware of and it's just like common sense by now. However, just in case it's not, I'm just going to note these things anyway in a fast fashion, and if it's a category that people didn't realize and you want me to cover it more deeply, then I will, I guess. But for now, let me just try to explain everything I see, as a pair of fresh eyes might shine some light on some categories that perhaps some people are scratching their heads over. So let's start with the world. So by now we're all aware that the sky is fake and the stars are fake. So some people may be wondering what's on the outside then of this like dome or bubble that we're in, right? But I don't think that's a legit question, because I think we're actually in a domain. Our whole world of Teyvat is in a domain, and therefore there's not really an outside to it. Maybe there's other places, other domains, but what's directly outside? Well, look at all the other domains we know. There's not walls to the domain. It's not lined. It's not a box. It's a dimension itself. Sure, there's a doorway into it, but it's not occupying any space in our space. It's in a different dimension. That's what I think our world is as well. Teyvat is in a domain itself, the entirety of it. Next, I want to go into archons. So the archons are really similar to pre-Christian Gnosticism, and what they basically did, the archons, is they try to keep the people fixated on certain topics. So it's so fixating and distracting that you're never able to clear your mind and focus on spirituality, and therefore you're never able to ascend to the next plane of existence. You're literally trapped and bound onto the physical plane because you're obsessed and fixated on these things by the archons' doings. For instance, Rex Lapis, the people in Leeway are so fixated on trying to create contracts and accumulate wealth that every day they're just running this hamster wheel, which takes all of their time and focus, and they honestly don't care. Like this is what they live for, this is what they do. But because of this is what's keeping you bound. It's not giving you the time and the clarity to become spiritual and to be able to ascend to the next plane of existence, because you're so focused on this single category that you can't leave the physical plane. You're too obsessed with money and contracts or whatever it may be that you never can get out of this loop and this mindset to leave this plane and to realize these are just material things that don't matter, to then go on to the next plane of existence. That's the point of an archon. These are what they do, but they're not doing it maliciously. They're just doing it because it's their nature. Alright, so next this leads me straight into visions, and this is going to be kind of hard for me to articulate. I'm not really good at explaining my thought process, but the best way I could describe what I think the visions are fate breakers. And I know I'm going to be hit with rejection right here, but hear me out first and let it all simmer in, because it's kind of confusing. Probably just because the way I'm describing it's going to be confusing. But so taking a step back for a second, I believe the people of each, let's say, nation under every archon is obeying the way of the archon. They're living the life they're supposed to live. They're living the way they're supposed to be living. However, there are certain people who glimpse, let's say, knowledge or reality, and they see past the archons, let's call it manipulation, accidental manipulation, and then they're able to become more enlightened, and because of this they can tap into the same power that the archon has. So this is implying in itself that the archons are not directly giving chosen people visions. I do not believe that at all. I don't care what the lore says. Another piece of this equation is because how exactly are visions acquired in Genshin, right? It doesn't really add up with the lore. If you look at how everyone got their vision, it doesn't really make sense to how it's said to be. So it leads me to abandon what Genshin says, because you can't really trust what the lore says in Genshin, which I'll get into later. But instead, I take a look at our real world's correspondence to visions. What would it match to? Well, it matches to chakras, obviously, right? That's what it seems to be to me. And they pretty much align one for one, but just so we don't make this whole video about chakras and visions, let me just cover one. So what is the green chakra all about? Well, when you get stuck in the green one, it's like because of anger and grief and jealousy, even self-hatred and pain and betrayal, right? And you can't move past this. But to let go of this, right? And what is this? The green chakra is the heart. And what is the dendro archon about? It is the heart archon, like literally. And you may be like, you're grasping at straws here, Raven. What are you talking about? Okay, take a pause for a second. You see, if you take a look at one of the first quests you had in Cimmeral, where that ranger got a dendro vision, how did she acquire it? Was she like doing some deep research and studies or something like that? Was she some super intellectual? No. That's not what gave her vision. She got her vision because she had extreme empathy for the Aranara. That's what it was. She had heart. And that's what gave her the dendro vision. And that explains all of those scholars who spend all day studying. They don't have dendro visions. It's not about knowledge. You may think that not all of them actually are intelligent, and some of them are just like stealing each other's work or mimicking or just nodding their head and they don't really know anything. Perhaps, but the ones, at least the ones at the top of that society, should be highly intelligent. And therefore, shouldn't they have dendro visions? But they don't. Not a single one of them does. So why? I think I know why. It's because they don't really have empathy for their fellow man. They don't really care about having heart. All they care about is seeking knowledge. They're trapped in that cycle and therefore they can't get out of it. But the ones who do empathize with other people, even a small ranger out there in the wilderness who's not really a scholar or anything, she can get a vision. All it really takes is empathy, compassion, forgiveness, acceptance. But I'm not just saying just anyone can do it. No, you have to have extreme amounts of this. You have to have an abundance of whatever the category is that the archons draw their true power from, and then you'll be able to harness it yourself. So then breaks forth a bigger question, which is, why are we able to use all of the elements and we're like one of the only ones who can, and we don't even have a vision, at least seemingly, right? One could take my chakra hypothesis and then say that this is like our personal enlightenment journey until we're complete again. And yes, I mean again, because I think that people have been playing so long that they forgot that we originally started the game with a completely different element that isn't even available to pretty much anyone else in the game, and that is light. And why am I under the assumption that we were wielding light? Is it just because when the game started off we looked at our godly and stuff? No, it's because of our names, Ether and Khaenri'ah, or Lumine. We are the day, we are the light, we are the children of two of the primordial ones, in the Greek pantheon anyway. And some versions there's only 4 primordial ones, but the majority of times that's 5 primordial ones. And 2 of those primordial ones would be Ether and Khaenri'ah, or Lumine's parents, which may explain why we are exceptional and why we were light wielders. However, I feel like this is where Genshin tricks people the most. This is their biggest obfuscation, because they make things archaically cryptic by like naming things multiple times. And why do I say that? It's because when someone like me comes along that knows a lot about mythology and history and religion and stuff like that, even occultism, and someone throws a name out, then I know everything. I know your whole story. I know what the point of your character is about. I know where you came from and what you're likely gonna do. It basically ruins the story for someone like me. However, my point is Genshin names things multiple times, purposely to confuse you, so you go down this rabbit hole where you try to predict where they come from, what they're all about, or what they're likely gonna do later on. But that in itself would not make sense, because, so I'm gonna give you a metaphor here to try to explain this. So let's say Yu-Gi-Oh, the anime, right? Let's say that all of the spiky haired kids, the main character from every single season, let's say that someone's implying that they're actually all the same single character. At face value, this would make sense, right? They're all some spiky-haired kid, at least as far as I know, and they're all some great duelist that has some great destiny. Sure, all of that makes sense. It applies to all of them, right? The problem then comes when you try to decipher their life. Did they all come from the same parent? Do they all have the same type of life? Do they all have the same destiny? Do they all have the same friends? Do they all make the same choices? No to all of that. And on an even greater note is like, you're not the only person in this mythology. So that means everyone else has to align perfectly in every single different version of mythology on the family tree, not just you. That's not possible for them to align every single character perfectly with multiple different mythologies. It doesn't make sense. It's not possible. It's simply just a futile like exploration. Like, it's just wasting your time and distracting you. Like, this is Genshin being an archon itself and just keeping you so fixated on the wrong category. Like, another example I could give you, and then I'll move on to the next category, is let's say that Genshin implies that Klee is a Charmander. All you're supposed to do is take that at face value, and you see that they have similarities. You know, she's cute, she's a baby, she's a pyromaniac, she has the potential to be extremely fierce and dangerous, but that doesn't mean that she's literally going to evolve into a Charmeleon and then to a Charizard one day. She's literally not going to be a literal dragon. Like, I think that's where people take it too far, and you're not supposed to. And if Genshin wanted you to think this, it's just to distract you so you're not focusing on trying to figure out the actual story. You're supposed to just let go of this, see the similarities, and then let it go, because they're not actually these people. For instance, some people think that Paimon is like some great evil, and she's a servant to a greater evil, some kind of Genshin version of Lucifer or something like that. So she's gonna betray us one day and be our great enemy. You're taking it too far if you think like this. Look at the facts. Paimon is absolutely completely loyal to us. That would make us Lucifer in Genshin. That's the version. You was expecting to have some big bad guy that's the enemy and she's gonna betray us? No, it's us. We're the morning star. We're the fallen one. We're the one who fell from the heavens and is going against everything that this world stands for. The rules, the nature. We're the one who's turning people against the ways that was set for them to live out. We're the chaos. I think some people were like literally taking it too far, and they thought there was gonna be some big Lucifer type guy sitting on the throne of Celestia, and we were gonna have to confront them and be betrayed by Paimon. That's what I assume people are thinking, which is exactly why I offer my fresh set of eyes onto all of these cases that Genshin puts forth. Next one being Celestia, and I think that a lot of people they can't wait for the day we go up there and we're exploring Celestia and fighting whoever's up there or whatever, or living up there. And I think you're not actually paying attention. Like, Celestia looks slanted. It literally looks like we can't walk on there, which brings me to the conclusion that it's like a dead satellite. It's just up there spinning and orbiting, but it's like no one's readjusting it because no one is alive there anymore. If there's anything up there, it's something like Paimon, whatever the heck she is, or Celes, or something like that. It's the only kind of creatures that will be able to live up there because of how sloped it is, for crying out loud. Like, we'll fall right off of it. We don't have enough stamina to stay standing on it. It's too slanted. Which perfectly brings me into my next category, which is that god that we fought at the beginning of the game. We explored the world and asked everyone about her and stuff like that. No one knew who she was or has seen or heard from her in how long? What has it been, like 500 years at least? Which means what? She's gone. She's either dead, she's sealed somewhere, or she completely abandoned this realm. She's no longer here. How do I know she's not here? Because there's a lot of instances where people in the world have crossed lines that she would have smited them for. That's her whole duty, that's her whole job. Her whole mission is to stop these rules from being broken. Things like the Gnosis being stolen from the Archons and stuff like that, the Fatui trying to create gods and stuff like this, the withering zones and things like this, these things would have been stopped, or at least attempted to be stopped by her. People would have seen her, would have known her, would have heard from her. But there's nothing, which obviously means that she's no longer around to stop it, and that's why no one has heard from her. She's gone. Genshin does a really good job of distracting everyone and making you focus on certain things when you really should be trying to focus on other things. Like, for instance, in the past, people should have been focused on like the ley lines. They absorb souls and energy and things like that, right? And then the trees, they freaking, if they're damaged, souls come out of there. And then our fates are tied to the stars. Like, all of this would have been connected. Everyone would have seen that there's like a whole world tree, that this is how this world works. This is how the rules of this reality are. We would have all seen that if people would have been focused on that. But instead we were focused on the wrong type of categories. And I'm not implying that I'm asking the right questions. I'm just saying there are questions out there that we should be focusing on and we're not. But I'll give you some of mine just in case. For instance, one of them being, obviously we were sealed away somewhere for like 500 years, right? Because I don't think we time jumped. I think we were sealed away. So the real question is, how did we get out? What let us out and why? My next question is these giant seals or sigils that are on the floor. I don't believe the gods put them there. I believe like some group of sages or magicians or a coven of witches will put this here. They knew it was connected to the ley lines. They knew energy comes out of there, and they marked it. The question is, why did they mark it? So I have a few theories, but are any of them correct? I'm not sure. My first initial thought was this is a seal to basically bound those creatures that are on it, those cubes. But those cubes can leave that area, so therefore that theory is automatically wrong. My second thought is those seals were to summon those creatures. Why, I don't know, but this is looking like Abrahamic, like Christianity's original formats, where you can summon things like angels to do things for you or to send messages for you. And you may be like, why do I think that this cube has anything to do with an angel? Well, the original way the angels are described is they're freaky looking. They're supposed to be like wheels within wheels. My thought is Genshin is doing their own version of it. Instead of wheels within wheels, they're cubes within cubes. I know there's certain lores in the game. However, I trust absolutely nothing that's said in the game, because anything can be altered. If you alter the world tree, it literally alters reality all around you. So no record or scripture or people's own memories am I ever going to believe in Genshin, because it can be faulty. All I can do is take what I see in Genshin and match it with correlations from our world's mythologies. To not have this video go on too long, this will be my last one, and it's where do I think the location of Khaenri'ah is. I think Khaenri'ah was once a continent somewhere. It was an island somewhere or whatever. But I think it got sealed away into a domain. Probably because of corruption, like the withering or something like that took place there. And it got sealed away, obviously to contain it from polluting and contaminating everything else. That's my thoughts. My closing notes or advice to you is let Genshin articulate in an archaic fashion, you know, the vision that they had intended from the start. They still have a long way to go until they can completely complete it. So why don't you let them do everything that they wanted to do before you expect them to add new things that they never intended to put in the first place? Perhaps they will add the things you want one day, but can they first finish the main thing that they wanted to do? Anyway, that's all I have for now, and I hope to see you guys next time.